Hey everybody! Happy National Tell a Fairy Tale Day. So I wanted to stop by today because today is National Tell a Fairy Tale Day and talk a little bit fairy tales and folklore with you. So yesterday was the release for book one of my Road to Valhalla series. So I released this little gem. I'm still waiting for my paperbacks to come. So if you get one, you have it before I do. But Shield Maiden Under the Howling Moon. This was my new release that came out yesterday. It's book one in the Road to Valhalla series. I wanted to talk a little bit about this story because it actually is inspired by the Norse Hervarar saga. So, so in order to talk fairy tales, I thought, well, let me just tell you a little bit about where I got the idea for the story. So I knew I wanted to write about a shield maiden. Of course, I was really inspired by the character of Largatha from Vikings. You know, it's love her. So I thought surely there's going to be some other great shield maidens out there to think about or read about. So I looked at characters like Freydis. She's the daughter of Eric the Red. She's got a great story. In fact, I believe Vikings is doing a spin-off on her and her brother. And then there's another famous shield maiden, Gunhild, Mother of Kings. So I considered both of them, but I settled on Hervor and her story because I thought she was a really interesting character. So the Hervor saga kind of tells the story of this sword named Tyrfing. You will get some of the background of that sword and what it is and where it came from in the first book, in Under the Howling Moon. But the story starts out with how the sword Tyrfing, which is a sword made by dwarves, came to Midgard. And it has to do with a berserker by the name of Arngrim, and then Arngrim's sons, including Ungatir. And we meet Arngrim and Arngrim's sons, the berserkers, in this story. Under the Strawberry Moon, which is the book that you can get for free if you sign up for my newsletter, tells about the sword Tyrfing, and it tells about the sons of Arngrim, including the berserker Ungatir, who has an important part to play in Under the Howling Moon, sort of tangentially. So I don't want to get into too much of that, but once you read the book, you'll understand why I'm being a little vague. So that's how actually the Hervor saga starts out, telling about the sword Tyrfing, how Tyrfing went from a king to this man named Arngrim, and then how the sword came then down to Angatyr. Also included in the Hervor saga is the story of Hervor the Shield Maiden. So Hervor is really an interesting character because she started out in the story not really knowing who she was. She knows who her mother is, but her father's identity has been kept a secret from her, and she doesn't really know why. She just knows that she's kind of told she has bad blood and that she's kind of a cursed girl, and nobody wants to talk to her about her paternity. So I can read for you just a little bit of what's actually in the Hervor saga, where I got my idea for the character of Hervor. So it says, Bjarmar, which is Jarl Bjartmar, who is the grandfather of Hervor. Bjarmar's daughter was with child. That was an exceptionally fair lass. She was sprinkled with water and given a name and called Hervor, but it was the opinion of most that she should be left outside, and they said she wouldn't be too ladylike if she took after her father's kin. She was brought up with the Jarl and was as strong as the boys. As soon as she could do anything for herself, she trained more with shot and shield and sword than sewing or embroidery. She did more bad than good, too, and when these things were forbidden to her, she ran into the woods and killed men for their money. And when the Jarl hears of this highwayman, he went there with his troops, and he caught Hervor, and he brought her home, and there she stayed for a bit. So the Hervor from the legends is a little bit of a naughty girl. Well, I don't know how naughty it is if she's killing people for their money. That's flat out evil, dark side stuff. But in my story, it's more she's out in the world trying to be a strong woman, trying to protect people, trying to do good in the world, and she's not permitted to do that because she has her femininity enforced upon her. So there are a few different versions of the Hervor saga, and some of the other versions play to that more, saying she's been sprinkled with rose water and that she's been told to sit at the loom, and that even though she's a better rider or an archer than the boys, she's not permitted to do those kinds of activities. So I like the premise of that story of we have a girl who doesn't know her identity. She feels from the inside that she's supposed to be one thing, but she has these outside forces forcing her to behave in a certain way. And I thought, well, that's a fun conflict. What do you do with that? So that was sort of the premise of where my Shield Maiden tale comes from. It comes from this old folk tale. This is timeline-wise, if we're looking back and trying to date this, if these people actually lived, and if this was if this is real historical stuff, we're looking like around the year 300. So we're pre-Viking era, even though the story has that kind of Viking feel to it. So I hope that sort of sheds a little bit of light on the background of where the story came from, my inspiration for it, that Hervor has her full story. As you heard when I read, there's a lot missing, so you kind of get the outline of the story, but you don't get much of, who she loves and who she hates, and why do people behave the way they do, and all of that, and that's the interesting part for me. So, I knew that in this story I wanted to include a character that was very close to the gods. So while Hervor is very much a shield maiden and sort of an embodiment of that, and she's very much a worshiper of Odin, she says that she never had a father, and so Odin is her father. So Hervor is very close to Odin. And she has prophetic dreams and things that are really interesting. But in addition to Hervor and her connection to the Norse gods, I also add in this character named Idis into my stories. And Idis is a Volva. So she has visions. She is prophetic. It's almost shamanistic when you look at the Volva magic. It's really interesting, like going deep into Norse myth and magic. There's so much there. I'm still doing research to try to learn it all. But so for National Tell a Fairy Tale Day, I thought we could just think about, what is the inspiration for it. I hope everyone's got a chance to grab Svafa's story, which gives a lot of background on what happens before the story turns and focuses on Hervor. This book focuses on the sons of Arngrim, including Angantyr, and how all this situation came to be. And that book is available for free if you sign up for my newsletter. It's you can get that off of my webpage. If you just go to www.melaniekarsak.com, you can get it from there. Second book in the Shield Maiden tales, this is Shield Maiden Under the Hunter's Moon, is now available for pre-order. It will follow the story of Hervor a bit, and as I've been working on that and looking at the original text, I'm actually seeing where Shakespeare got some inspiration for some of his stories. So it's crazy, like the character of Hervor inspired Tolkien's Eowyn, but I'm seeing where Shakespeare got some ideas as well for As You Like It, which is really cool. That book is long, and I'm just about done with it, and I've been just about done with it for about a month. So, but it will be releasing at the end of April. So that book is available for pre-order. I had originally intended this as a trilogy. I don't know if it's going to comply or not. Hervor obviously has her own mind, and she does what she wants to do. But after we finish Hervor, I'll be getting back more to steampunk fairy tales, as well as my Wonderland Academy series. I know that a lot of you are waiting on those books. I hear you. And we got to find out what happens to Lacey. So, alrighty. So that's where we are. And I hope you like the little background that we have on this folktale and what inspired my novel. And anyway, for all my fairy tale lovers out there, I wish you happy National Tell a Fairy Tale Day. It's a mouthful, isn't it? All right. So anyway, be well, and I'll talk to you again later. Bye.